Hey there, we are back with skill 4, but this time we are going to be practicing solving equations in a more advanced way, meaning we're going to need more than just those 2 steps in order to isolate the variable. So we're going to be looking at all 4 steps for this one. So in the last video, we really just kind of focused on steps 3 and 4, but now we really need to pay attention to this first step, which is to distribute to eliminate parentheses, and to our second step, which is combining like terms. So let's get into it and jump on in with this first one. So I do have parentheses, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute to eliminate them. I did mark the 2 sides of my equation because I just want to keep that in mind as I'm thinking about that part of combining like terms, because I can't combine like terms if they're not on the same side. I also can't combine like terms if they are not like terms. So let's make sure that we get this set up correctly. Negative 3 times 2x is going to give me a negative 6x, and a negative 3 times a positive 1 is going to give me a negative 3. And then on the other side, because that negative 27 is not in the parentheses, we're going to go ahead and just copy that down. So we've done step 1 where we've distributed to eliminate parentheses. Step 2 says combine like terms if needed. So I'm really thinking when I'm combining like terms of the 2 sides. On my left side is negative 6x and negative 3. Are those 2 terms like terms? And since the answer is no, I can't combine them. And then on the right side, I just have negative 27, so I'm not going to combine that with anything because there's nothing else to combine it with, which means we can skip step 2 in this problem, and we're ready to go to those 2 steps we just did in the last video. Looking for our constant, I'm going to see that I have a negative 3 as my constant. It doesn't have the variable next to it, so that means I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get rid of it. So when I do that, these guys cancel out, and I'm left with negative 6x on the left side. And on the right side, negative 27 plus 3 is equal to negative 24. And then my step 4, multiply or divide. In this case, because the negative 6 is being multiplied to x, I'm going to divide by negative 6 to both sides. Again, our negative 6 cancels out, and I'm left with just x, which is what we wanted. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 24 divided by 6 is 4. So it looks like our solution to this first equation is x equals 4. Let's go ahead, use that substitution piece. So again, I'm going to write it here as step 5. I'm going to write it here as step 5. Use substitution to check your answer. And this is nice, especially on a test or an assessment. You will know before you even turn in your test if you have it correct. So take advantage of that. I'm going to write here negative 3 and in parentheses 2, and then I need another set of parentheses to replace my variable, plus 1 minus 27. So we're trying, equals, let's fix that really quickly. We're trying to see, does that equal negative 27? So thinking order of operations, I need to start in the parentheses, and in parentheses, I need to do the multiplication first. So I've got negative 3. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 equals negative 27. I still have parentheses, so I'm going to add here. Negative 3 times 9 equals negative 27. And then 3 times 9 is 27. And a negative times a positive is also negative. So we've just checked and verified that our answer of 4 is correct. All right, let's go ahead and move on and look at our next example. If we go back to our steps, step 1 says to distribute to eliminate parentheses. Well, the good news is we don't have any, so we can say that step is done. Next, we're going to combine like terms. So I can see that I have like terms on the left side of my equation. It's the 1/8 x and the 1/4 x. And in fact, not only do I have like terms, but these like terms are fractions. So I'm going to box these in just so we can make sure we're looking at the same thing. But to be able to add fractions, I need to have a common denominator. So I need to think about, what do 8 and 4 both go into? Now, there are a variety of common denominators you could use, but we want to try and find the smallest common denominator just to make our calculations easier. So I know that 8 and 4 both go into 8, which is great because that means I don't actually need to change that first fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the stuff that I'm going to bring down, which is the 3 plus the 1/8 x. Now, 1/4, if I want to make that a common denominator of 8, I need to multiply it by 2 in the denominator and by 2 in the numerator. So 1/4 really turns into 2/8. So I'm going to write plus 2/8 x equals 0. And now I can go ahead and combine my like terms. So I really end up with an equation that looks like 3 plus, and 1/8 plus 2/8 is 3/8 equals 0. And now we can start solving, looking for our constant. So I have this constant of 3. Because it's a positive 3, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So let's split our equation, subtract 3. My 3's cancel each other out, and I'm left with 3/8 x equals -3. Now, dealing with this fraction, I have 3/8 times x, which means I need to divide to get rid of the 3/8. Now, dividing by a fraction can be a little bit tricky. Dividing by a fraction means you have to multiply by the reciprocal. If you feel confident doing that, absolutely do that. However, I like to show an alternative way where we can break this into 2 steps, and sometimes that's a little less confusing. So I want to get rid of the 3 and the 8. I'm going to start by getting rid of the denominator first. So this line here means we're dividing. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by that denominator. The 8's will cancel out, and we are left with 3x on the left side. And on the right side, we are left with -24. And now we just have to get rid of the 3. So 3 times x, the opposite of multiplication is division. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. My 3's cancel out, and we are left with very little room. But we've got a negative divided by a positive, which is a negative. And 24 divided by 3 is 8. So it looks like our final answer should be x equals -8. So we're going to test that over here in our check section. And get rid of our scratch work. And let's plug it in. I've got 3 plus 1/8 times -8 plus 1/4 times -8. And we're checking to see if that equals 0. So let's simplify our multiplication here. A positive times a negative is going to be negative, and 1/8 of 8 is just 1. Again, a positive 1/4 times a -8. Well, positive times negative is negative, and 1/4 of 8 is 2. That's 0. So 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So we've just shown that -8 is in fact our answer. So these problems are a little tricky just because they involve more steps. You have to be confident with your ability to distribute and your ability to combine like terms. But these last 2 steps really are the same no matter what. You're going to find the constant, do the opposite to move it, and then multiply or divide to get that variable below. So as we go on to our practice, you're going to solve the equation and then check your answer below. So we can look at this first one. I do have some parentheses, so I'm going to distribute. And I get 3y plus 15 equals 21. Let's find that constant, which it looks like it's the positive 15. So we're going to subtract 15 on both sides. Our constants cancel. We're left with 3y equals 6. 3 times y, the opposite of multiplication, is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And it looks like we're left with y is equal to 2. And I've solved it correctly right here. So Complete your practice, ask questions when you don't understand, and good luck.